Something extraordinary is approaching. And if you dismiss tonight as ordinary, you may not realize until much later that you were standing at the edge of a moment that only appears once in a lifetime. There are certain nights when the sky seems to whisper, and then there are nights when it completely rewrites the conversation. Tonight belongs to the second category. On June 14th, a super new moon arrives in Gemini, the sign connected to thought, language, information, perception, and the invisible networks that link one idea to another. Yet calling this event simply a new moon barely scratches the surface of what is actually unfolding. The energy gathering around this lunation is operating on an entirely different scale, carrying a level of significance that reaches far beyond the usual beginning of a lunar cycle. For 3 zodiac signs in particular, the message emerging from this cosmic doorway has the potential to alter the direction of their lives in a way that becomes impossible to ignore. This is not the kind of change people talk about years later as a subtle influence. This is the kind of moment that creates a clear dividing line, a version of life that existed before the message arrived, and another version that begins the moment it is received. What makes this even more remarkable is that there is a hidden factor woven into the structure of this moon, something so uncommon that most people never encounter it in a meaningful way. It is a feature embedded in the celestial design itself, and once you understand it, the entire meaning of this lunation changes. What appears on the surface to be another monthly reset is actually functioning as a major crossroads. The universe is not merely inviting reflection, it is presenting information. It is delivering awareness. It is opening a channel. And if you have recently noticed unusual sensations, perhaps a persistent ringing in your ears, perhaps an increase in mental activity, perhaps thoughts arriving with unusual intensity, as though your own consciousness has been trying to pull your attention towards something important, there may be a deeper reason for it than you realize. Sometimes the mind becomes louder right before a breakthrough because a new level of awareness is preparing to emerge. Sometimes the internal noise is not noise at all. Sometimes it is a signal. Most people will never notice the significance of this night. They will move through it the same way they move through every other evening, unaware that the atmosphere around them has shifted. They will wake up tomorrow believing nothing meaningful occurred. But those who are paying attention may eventually look back at June 14th and recognize it as the precise point where an entirely different timeline began unfolding. The truth is that this moment has not arrived suddenly. The cosmic machinery responsible for tonight's activation has been assembling itself piece by piece for weeks. The foundation was laid long before the new moon appeared. The process became visible on June 9th, when Venus and Jupiter formed an exact conjunction in Cancer. Consider the symbolism for a moment. Venus governs love, connection, beauty, attraction, values, and the experiences that bring meaning to the heart. Jupiter governs growth, expansion, opportunity, blessings, and abundance. Their meeting alone would have been significant. Yet the location of that meeting made it even more powerful. They united in Cancer, the sign associated with home, belonging, emotional roots, safety, family, and the places within us where genuine security is built. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, meaning its ability to generate protection, support, luck, and emotional abundance operates at exceptional strength. When Venus entered that field and joined forces with Jupiter, something subtle but profound began moving through the collective atmosphere. Many people felt it without understanding why. Perhaps a relationship suddenly seemed more trustworthy. Perhaps a conversation removed uncertainty that had lingered for months. Perhaps your living situation started feeling more stable. Or maybe nothing external happened at all, yet you woke up carrying a strange sense of calm. A feeling that the ground beneath your feet had become solid after a long period of instability. A feeling that something inside you could finally exhale. That sensation was not accidental. It was part of a larger sequence, The universe was strengthening your emotional foundation before introducing the next stage of the process. That preparation matters because the information connected to tonight's portal arrives quickly. Opportunities move quickly. Realizations move quickly. Messages move quickly. If fear dominates your thinking, if scarcity controls your reactions, if anxiety clouds your perception, the signal can easily be missed. But when security exists first, awareness has room to operate. The mind can recognize what is arriving. The heart can trust it. The message lands without distortion. Then another piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Yesterday, Venus entered Leo. The atmosphere changed immediately. The emotional softness of Cancer began transforming into something brighter and more visible. Confidence started replacing hesitation. Creative energy became stronger. Self-expression became more difficult to suppress. Many people may have noticed an unexpected desire to speak their truth, share their ideas, create something meaningful, or stop minimizing themselves for the comfort of others. These impulses were not random. They represented another stage of preparation. The universe was not only helping you feel secure, it was helping you become brave enough to act on whatever revelation was approaching. And now we arrive at the detail that changes everything. At 11 o'clock tonight, the Sun and Moon unite at the same degree in Gemini, creating the exact new moon. Yet unlike nearly every lunation people normally experience, this one possesses an extraordinarily unusual characteristic. At the precise moment of its birth, the moon forms no major aspects to any other planet. None at all. No squares creating tension, no trines creating flow, no oppositions creating polarity. Nothing. In astrological language, the moon is void, of course, from the moment this lunation begins. Many people misunderstand what that means. They hear the phrase and assume it suggests inactivity or absence. But that interpretation misses the deeper reality. When an entire lunation emerges from a void state, especially within Gemini, one of the most mentally active signs of the zodiac, the energy is not weakened. It is purified. Imagine a message arriving without interference. Imagine a signal traveling through space without static. Imagine receiving insight before other planetary forces have a chance to color, reshape, delay, confuse, or redirect it. That is what makes this moment so rare. There is no Saturn standing nearby, demanding caution. There is no Neptune surrounding the message with fog and uncertainty. There is no Mars pushing impulsive reactions before understanding has a chance to form. Instead, there is a remarkable level of clarity waiting to emerge. And as we move deeper into what this configuration truly means, you will begin to understand why this super new moon is not simply marking the start of another cycle. It is opening a doorway unlike anything most people will experience in their entire lives. What makes this moment so extraordinary is not simply the arrival of a super new moon. It is the unusual condition under which it is being born. Imagine standing in a room where every voice has suddenly gone silent. No distractions, no interruptions, no competing demands for your attention, just stillness. That is the closest comparison to what is happening within the symbolic landscape of your mind right now. This lunation creates an exceptionally rare opening, a space where awareness can emerge without being filtered through the usual layers of external influence. That is why I keep referring to this as a portal of messages, rather than merely another lunar beginning. The realization that arrives under this sky is not being pushed by outside pressure. It is not being manufactured by fear, urgency, expectation, or manipulation. Instead, it rises naturally from a place deep within your own consciousness. And when truth emerges from that level, it carries a power that is impossible to ignore. Think about the moments that have changed your life most dramatically. Often they did not begin with a dramatic event. They began with a single realization, a sentence, a conversation, a sudden understanding that reorganized everything you thought you knew. One insight can rearrange an entire future. One moment of clarity can close a chapter that lasted for years. Under this new moon, those kinds of breakthroughs become far more possible because the signal is unusually clean. The thoughts you entertain today matter. The intentions you choose matter. The conversations you engage in matter. Even the private dialogue taking place inside your own mind carries unusual significance. What is planted within your awareness now has the potential to influence the direction of the months ahead in ways that most lunar cycles simply cannot match. Yet there is another layer woven into this story, and it adds an entirely different dimension to the energy unfolding tonight. This new moon is not floating through empty cosmic territory. It is aligned with a specific fixed star known as Misa, the star that marks the head of Orion, the hunter. Pause for a moment and consider the symbolism. A hunter is not someone who drifts aimlessly through the wilderness. A hunter survives through focus, through precision, through the ability to recognize what matters and ignore everything that does not. Once a target is chosen, energy is directed with purpose. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is random. That symbolism is deeply embedded into the message of this lunation. The awareness arriving through this portal is not likely to feel vague or confusing. It is not designed to leave you wondering what it means. The energy of Misa points toward precision, toward recognition, toward seeing something so clearly that uncertainty begins to dissolve. But hidden within that gift is a challenge. The hunter can only succeed when attention remains focused. A scattered mind cannot lock onto its target. A distracted consciousness cannot recognize an important signal when it arrives. This is why your environment matters right now. This is why your mental space matters right now. If your attention is consumed by endless noise, constant notifications, unnecessary conflict, emotional drama, gossip, or information overload, the message trying to reach you may become buried beneath the clutter. Not because the signal is weak, but because the static is too loud. And this is exactly where the Sabian symbol connected to this degree becomes remarkably powerful. The symbol associated with this new moon is a gardener trimming large palm trees. Notice what the gardener is doing. The image is not about planting something new. It is not about watering. It is not about expanding. The action is trimming, removing, cutting back, eliminating excess growth so that what is healthy can thrive. There is a profound lesson hidden inside that image. Before something meaningful can arrive, something unnecessary must often be removed. Before clarity enters, confusion must leave. Before a new understanding can take root, old patterns must release their grip. The universe appears to be delivering a very direct message through this symbolism. The breakthrough you are waiting for may depend less on what you add to your life and more on what you are willing to remove. Perhaps it is an outdated belief about who you are. Perhaps it is a story you have repeated for so long that it feels like truth, even though it no longer reflects reality. Perhaps it is a habit of thinking that automatically pulls you toward doubt, fear, or limitation. Perhaps it is a conversation that drains your energy every time it occurs. Whatever form the clutter takes, the symbolism remains the same. Prune the excess and the signal becomes easier to hear. Hold on to everything, and the most important realization of the year may pass by unnoticed. This also explains something many people have been experiencing recently. You may have noticed that your inner world feels louder than usual. Thoughts that were once buried have been resurfacing. Emotions tied to old memories seem to appear without warning. Certain songs, images, or passing comments may have affected you far more deeply than logic can explain. There is a reason for that. The ruler of Gemini is Mercury, and Mercury is not currently traveling through Gemini. Mercury is moving through Cancer, the sign associated with emotion, memory, family, roots, intuition, and the subconscious mind. This changes everything about how information is processed. Instead of filtering reality primarily through logic and analysis, Mercury in Cancer routes perception through feeling. Your mind is not simply collecting information right now, it is experiencing it emotionally. That is why a memory from years ago may suddenly return with surprising intensity. That is why certain conversations continue replaying in your thoughts, not because you are trying to solve them intellectually, but because your emotional body is still extracting meaning from them. The lessons arriving now are designed to be felt before they are fully understood. As a result, the message connected to this portal may arrive wrapped in emotion. It may involve family dynamics. It may connect to your home. It may touch your sense of belonging. It may reveal something about your roots, your history, or the people who shaped you. In some cases, the truth may not even be hidden within the words someone speaks. It may be hidden inside the feeling those words awaken within you. Because at this moment, emotion is functioning as a compass. It is pointing toward what matters most. There is also another crucial factor that cannot be ignored. Mercury is already moving through the territory that will soon become its pre-retrograde shadow. On June 29th, Mercury stations retrograde in Cancer, and the cycle will not fully clear until late July. This means that whatever realization arrives under this new moon is not the final chapter. It is the beginning of a much longer story. The information arriving now serves as the spark. The deeper understanding unfolds later. A conversation may happen now, but its full meaning may not become clear for weeks. A realization may strike immediately, yet new layers will continue revealing themselves over time. Details may evolve. Context may expand. Perspectives may change. This is why patience becomes essential. Welcome the message when it arrives, but do not rush to force conclusions. Allow it room to develop. Allow it space to reveal its deeper purpose. The retrograde process ahead will help separate what is permanent from what still requires revision. And now we arrive at the point where the energy becomes intensely personal. Everyone will feel something as this portal opens. The collective atmosphere itself is changing. But not everyone is standing at the center of the storm. 3 zodiac signs are positioned directly within the strongest current of this Gemini Super New Moon. The geometry of the sky places them in a uniquely powerful relationship with the energy unfolding now. If your sun sign, moon sign, or rising sign belongs to one of these 3, the period between now and the end of June may become one of the most significant chapters of the entire year. The message approaching is not merely information, it is a turning point, and what begins now has the potential to redirect the course of your life in ways that cannot be reversed. Gemini, before anything visible changes in your outer world, something far more important is about to change within you. The strange thing about personal transformation is that it rarely announces itself with fanfare. Most people imagine identity shifts arriving through dramatic events, major crises, or public declarations. Yet the most profound changes often happen in complete silence. A single realization appears, and suddenly the person you thought you were begins dissolving. If you are a Gemini sun, moon, or rising, this super new moon forms directly in your first house, the area of the chart connected to identity, self-expression, physical presence, confidence, and the image you project into the world. This places you at the very center of the story unfolding under this lunation. The spotlight is not shining on your relationships, your finances, or your future plans. It is shining directly on you. What makes this even more significant is the unusual void, of course, nature of this new moon. There is no external force dragging you toward change. No crisis is forcing your hand. No authority figure is demanding that you become someone different. Instead, the shift emerges from within. And that is what makes it so powerful. Somewhere inside your consciousness, a missing piece is about to fall into place. You may suddenly recognize how much energy has been spent maintaining versions of yourself that were created to satisfy other people's expectations. You may realize that certain ways of speaking, behaving, or presenting yourself no longer reflect who you truly are. For months, perhaps without fully understanding it, you have been growing beyond old definitions. There has been a subtle discomfort following you, a feeling that something no longer fits. Perhaps you noticed it when introducing yourself. Perhaps you felt it while explaining your goals. Perhaps it appeared during conversations where you found yourself saying things that no longer felt authentic. It is like continuing to wear clothing tailored for a previous version of your life. From the outside, everything appears normal, but internally you know the fit is wrong. This new moon marks the point where that awareness becomes impossible to ignore. The transformation may not arrive through a dramatic public announcement. In fact, it is likely to be remarkably quiet. A private realization. A moment alone with your thoughts. A conversation that suddenly reveals what you have known all along. Whatever form it takes, the result is the same. You stop investing energy into maintaining an identity that was never fully aligned with who you are becoming. And once that happens, everything else begins shifting around it. In the weeks that follow, the world starts responding to the version of you that finally emerges. New conversations appear. Different opportunities find their way toward you. People who never seemed to understand you suddenly see you clearly. Not because they changed, but because you stopped hiding behind outdated versions of yourself. The energy surrounding this new moon is asking you to trust the process. The gardener from the Sabian symbol is still at work. Branches that no longer contribute to growth are being removed. Let them fall. Do not waste energy trying to reattach what has already completed its purpose. What remains afterward is stronger, healthier, and far closer to the truth of who you have always been. Virgo, while Gemini experiences a transformation of identity, your story unfolds in an entirely different part of the chart. This super new moon rises to the highest point of your horoscope, activating the 10th house, the realm associated with career, public reputation, achievement, professional direction, authority, recognition, and legacy. This is the section of life connected to what people see when they look at your accomplishments and the mark you leave on the world. For you, this is not a background influence operating quietly behind the scenes. This is a major activation of your professional future. Because Gemini and Virgo share Mercury as their ruling planet, you are unusually sensitive to the energy of this lunation. If you have been feeling mentally restless lately, if your thoughts have been moving faster, if your nervous system seems unusually alert, do not automatically interpret it as anxiety. There is another possibility. Your intuition may be recognizing movement before your conscious mind can identify its source. Something has been building beneath the surface of your professional life, and your internal radar is beginning to detect it. The relationship between this new moon and your sign forms a square, a 90-degree angle known for creating pressure and momentum. Squares are not passive influences. They do not deliver rewards effortlessly. They create friction because friction produces movement. They challenge stagnation. They expose situations that can no longer remain frozen. If you have been trapped inside a professional circumstance that no longer supports your growth, this energy begins pushing against the walls. The message arriving for you is likely to emerge through professional channels. It carries tangible consequences. This could manifest as an unexpected opportunity. It could appear as a job offer that arrives from an unexpected source. It could involve a project that has remained stuck for months, suddenly moving forward with surprising speed. It could be a conversation with someone in a position of authority whose perspective alters the direction of your future. It could even arrive through recognition from someone whose opinion carries real influence within your field. Pay particular attention to communications between June 18th and June 27th. Messages matter. Emails matter. Phone calls matter. Casual conversations may contain information far more significant than they initially appear. The mutable energy of Gemini rewards those willing to adapt. Virgo individuals who attempt to control every variable may find the process frustrating. But those who remain flexible, responsive, and open to changing circumstances may discover themselves standing at the threshold of a breakthrough that completely rewrites their professional story. Something that has felt delayed is preparing to move. A negotiation that seemed frozen. A bureaucratic process that refused to progress. A decision trapped in uncertainty. Momentum is returning, and when it does, it may arrive much faster than expected. Be prepared to respond when the opening appears, because the opportunity may not remain available forever. Sagittarius, your experience with this new moon carries a very different emotional tone. While Gemini is redefining identity and Virgo is navigating professional acceleration, your attention is being directed toward relationships. This lunation forms directly opposite your sign, illuminating your 7th house, the area associated with committed partnerships, marriage, significant contracts, long-term agreements, and the individuals who reflect important truths back to you. Oppositions have a unique way of functioning. They act like mirrors illuminated by bright light. They reveal what has been difficult to see clearly. Under this new moon, the spotlight turns toward the people closest to you. More importantly, it turns toward the patterns, expectations, compromises, and unspoken realities that have shaped those connections. Gemini energy moves quickly. It cuts through complexity. It seeks facts, communication, and clarity. Because of this, philosophical avoidance becomes much more difficult. Optimism alone cannot bypass what needs to be addressed. Broad ideas and future possibilities are not enough. This lunation demands specifics. Conversations that have been postponed may finally occur. Questions that have lingered beneath the surface may demand answers. Feelings that have remained unspoken may seek expression. The energy of this portal encourages direct communication, honest language, and transparency. What has been hidden in silence becomes increasingly difficult to ignore, and the outcome depends largely on the strength of the foundation already supporting the relationship. If mutual respect exists, if honesty exists, if both individuals remain committed to genuine growth, this new moon can open a powerful new chapter. Conversations become deeper. Vulnerability becomes safer. Understanding expands. Things that once felt impossible to express finally find their voice. As a result, the connection evolves into something stronger, more authentic, and more emotionally honest than before. However, if the relationship has been sustained primarily through habit, convenience, fear of change, or avoidance of difficult truths, the energy of this lunation serves a different purpose. It does not arrive to punish. It does not arrive to create unnecessary pain. Its purpose is clarity. The kind of clarity that reveals what has been standing in front of you all along. The kind of clarity that allows you to finally see the reality of a situation without distortion. And as this portal continues opening through the remainder of June, that clarity may become the catalyst for one of the most important decisions you have faced in a very long time. There comes a moment in certain relationships when uncertainty simply runs out of places to hide. Not because someone forces a decision, and not because circumstances suddenly become dramatic, but because the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Sagittarius, this is the threshold you are approaching. For a long time, you may have been standing between possibilities, weighing options, exploring perspectives, searching for one more piece of information before making a choice. Yet this new moon is not interested in endless analysis. It is interested in clarity. The kind of clarity that arrives so suddenly that all the questions you have been asking dissolve at once. The internal debate of whether to remain or move forward may finally come to an end, not because someone else decides for you, but because your own awareness reaches a point where the answer becomes undeniable. A significant individual may deliver information that changes the entire landscape of the relationship. Alternatively, no dramatic announcement may occur at all. Instead, you may experience a realization that shifts your perspective so completely that you can never return to the way you viewed the connection before. Once a deeper truth is seen, it cannot be unseen. Once a hidden pattern becomes visible, it becomes impossible to pretend it is not there. This is the kind of awareness being activated now. By the time June comes to a close, the relationship standing before you today may look very different from the one that exists at the end of the month. Whether that transformation leads to a stronger bond or a different path altogether depends on the foundation beneath it. But one thing is certain: ambiguity is losing its power. Sagittarius is symbolized by the archer, and the archer cannot spend forever aiming in every direction at once. Eventually, a target must be chosen. Eventually, intention must become action. Eventually, possibility must become commitment. Yet even as these personal stories unfold, something much larger is moving beneath the surface. In fact, every element discussed so far, the extraordinary void of course structure of this new moon, the alignment with Mesa the Hunter star, the targeted activation experienced by Gemini, Virgo, and Sagittarius, all of it exists within an even greater cosmic context. There is a larger current carrying this entire event forward, whether most people recognize it or not. That current is Uranus. Uranus, the planet associated with revolution, breakthroughs, disruption, awakening, innovation, and the complete dismantling of outdated systems, entered Gemini on April 25th of this year. This is not a routine transit. Uranus has not occupied Gemini since the 1940s. The last time humanity experienced this combination, the world changed in ways that permanently altered civilization itself. During that period, humanity unlocked the atom. The foundations of modern computing emerged. Television entered homes and transformed communication forever. Entire methods of exchanging information were reinvented. The way people learned, connected, and understood reality underwent a dramatic transformation. Now Uranus has returned to Gemini, and it is not passing through quickly. It will remain there until the year 2033. For nearly a decade, humanity will experience a profound restructuring of thought, communication, learning, technology, information exchange, and collective perception. Entire generations will be shaped by this transit. The systems people depend upon to share knowledge and understand the world are being rewritten in real time. This is why the current new moon carries such unusual weight. It is not simply occurring in Gemini, it is occurring in the same sign now occupied by Uranus. As a result, the portal opening under this lunation extends beyond personal insight. It connects individual consciousness to a much larger collective movement. The realization that reaches you now may feel deeply personal, but it is also part of a broader shift unfolding across humanity itself. The conversation that redirects your future, the awareness that suddenly reorganizes your priorities, the insight that changes the way you understand your life, all of it belongs to a much larger story. Human beings are entering a new chapter in the evolution of thought and communication. Truth itself is being processed differently. Information is moving differently. Awareness is evolving. The message arriving through this portal is not isolated from that process. It is connected to it. And the timing becomes even more significant when we look just a few days ahead. On June 20th, only 6 days after this new moon, Uranus forms an exact square to the lunar nodes, the axis associated with collective destiny and karmic direction. This configuration adds enormous significance to the period we are currently entering. Thoughts carry greater consequence. Decisions carry greater consequence. Conversations carry greater consequence. Choices made during this portal window ripple far beyond the immediate present. This is not simply about what happens this week. It is about where those choices lead years from now. The seeds planted during this period have the potential to influence future trajectories in ways that may only become obvious with hindsight. That is why this moment deserves your attention. Ignoring the message that arrives now may feel easier in the short term, but doing so could mean resisting a current that is already reshaping the era itself. So how do you work with an energy this powerful? The first step is remarkably simple, yet many people will overlook it. Create silence. Every symbolic layer connected to this new moon points toward the same instruction. The hunter star points toward focus. The Sabian symbol points toward removing excess. The void, of course, structure points toward clarity. Together they form a single message. Noise must be reduced. That may mean turning off notifications. It may mean stepping away from endless scrolling. It may mean avoiding conversations that leave you emotionally exhausted. It may mean creating a period of uninterrupted quiet, even if it lasts only 30 minutes. The message trying to reach you does not need to compete with distractions. It needs space. Second, pay attention to what your body is telling you. Mercury is traveling through Cancer, and because of that placement, information is arriving through emotional channels as much as intellectual ones. The truth may not appear as a sentence spoken aloud. It may emerge as a feeling you cannot shake, a sensation in your chest, a sudden certainty that arrives without explanation, a memory returning at precisely the right moment, an emotional response that reveals more than logic ever could. Do not dismiss those experiences. Right now, your emotional awareness is functioning like an antenna, receiving signals that your rational mind may not immediately understand. Third, document what arrives. Write it down. Whether it appears as a realization, a dream, a conversation, an unexpected insight, or a powerful emotional response, preserve it. Between now and June 28th, pay attention. Mercury's upcoming retrograde journey through Cancer will revisit much of this material during July. The observations you record now may become valuable guideposts later. What seems minor today may reveal deeper significance with time. And finally, resist the temptation to rush. The purity of this new moon's void of course condition means the message itself arrives with unusual clarity. But Mercury's approaching retrograde reminds us that the story is still unfolding. The first insight is not always the final understanding. Allow the process room to breathe. Let awareness deepen naturally. Let additional pieces reveal themselves when the time is right. Because this super new moon in Gemini is not arriving quietly, it is not offering a gentle suggestion. It is acting as a powerful signal that a new chapter of awareness has begun. For Gemini, it initiates a profound redefinition of identity. For Virgo, it accelerates career developments and professional breakthroughs. For Sagittarius, it illuminates the truth within important relationships. And for everyone, it opens a portal, unlike anything experienced in this form for more than 80 years. The choice that remains is yours. The signal is arriving. The doorway is open. The awareness is available. What happens next depends entirely on whether you are willing to listen. And before we close, I want to sincerely thank you for spending this time with me and sharing your attention. If this message resonated with you, and you would like to continue exploring these cosmic shifts together, consider subscribing and becoming part of this growing community. Your support helps these conversations continue reaching the people who need them most. I would also love to hear about your experiences, insights, and reflections, so feel free to share them in the comments below. Until our next journey together, Take care of yourself. Stay open to the messages arriving around you, and remember that sometimes a single moment of clarity can change everything.